Right now, more Americans are looking beyond the United States for retirement because the numbers at home simply do not add up anymore. Social Security does not stretch the way it used to. Housing costs keep rising, and the dream of a comfortable retirement in America is slipping out of reach for more people every year. So places like Mexico, Thailand, and Portugal start looking like escape routes. On the surface, they look like a smart solution. Lower rent, lower daily expenses, warmer weather, a slower pace of life. It sounds simple, even peaceful. But the truth is much harder than that. What gets left out of the sunny retirement videos is the part nobody likes to talk about. The isolation, the paperwork, the medical uncertainty, the tax confusion, and the emotional cost of living far away from family when you need support the most. That is the part most people only discover after they have already made the move. And for a growing number of Americans, retirement abroad is not really a dream at all. It is a forced trade-off. It is the result of a financial system that has made staying home feel impossible and leaving feel like the only way to survive. By the end of this video, you will know all 10 reasons they leave the state, the real reason behind each one, and what to actually do about it this week. So let's get into the reality behind it. Number 10 is where the story really begins, because this is the reason so many people even start thinking about leaving in the first place. At number 10, we have the cost of living crisis in the United States. This is the pressure that pushes people to look elsewhere before they ever buy a plane ticket. When retirement income stays flat but rent, groceries, utilities, and insurance keep rising, the math gets ugly fast. A fixed income does not care about inflation, but inflation cares very much about a fixed income. That is why so many older Americans start feeling trapped. They did the responsible things. They worked. They saved. They expected that once they reached retirement, life would slow down and become manageable. But instead, they are watching basic expenses rise faster than their checks can keep up. And that creates a dangerous kind of desperation. Not always loud, not always visible, but very real. Once people start comparing their monthly costs in the US with what the same money could buy abroad, the idea of moving starts to feel less like an adventure and more like a survival strategy. That is the first warning sign. Not curiosity, not wanderlust, financial pressure. And once financial pressure becomes the main reason for a move, every other part of the decision becomes more fragile. That brings us to number 9, where the dream starts to look better on paper than it does in daily life. At number 9, we have the illusion of affordability. This is one of the biggest reasons people get drawn into the idea of retiring abroad. A smaller apartment in Mexico, a beach town in Portugal, or a quiet life in Thailand can look dramatically cheaper than staying in an American city. And in many cases, that lower cost is real. But affordability on paper is not the same as stability in real life. A cheap rent number can hide visa requirements, exchange rate risk, language barriers, transportation costs, and the fact that some expenses do not actually become cheaper once you settle in. Medical care, imported goods, banking fees, and travel back home can all add up faster than people expect. That is why some retirees are shocked after the move. They thought they were escaping financial pressure, but they often discover they have simply moved the pressure into a different shape. It may be less expensive in one area, but more complicated in 5 others. And complication is expensive. That is the hidden problem with the affordability story. It sells a simple answer to a complicated retirement crisis. But life is not a spreadsheet, and retirement is not just about rent. It is about whether you can live securely, predictably, and with dignity when things go wrong. That leads directly into number 8, which is one of the biggest hidden risks of all. At number 8, we have medical uncertainty. This is where many retirement abroad stories quietly get weaker, because healthcare is one of the most important things in later life. When people are young and healthy, they focus on scenery and cost. When they get older, they realize access matters more than aesthetics. A move abroad can create a lot of questions that are easy to ignore at first. What happens if you need a specialist? What happens if the local hospital does not meet the same standards you are used to? What happens if a medical issue becomes serious and you need a system that is fast, familiar, and easy to navigate? These are not small questions. They become life-changing questions. And even when care exists, language barriers and unfamiliar systems can make something simple feel overwhelming. A routine appointment in the US can become a confusing and stressful event abroad if you are trying to communicate through broken translation or unfamiliar paperwork. That is why medical comfort matters so much. Retirement is the stage of life when people often need care more often, not less. So a move that looks cheaper can become frightening when health concerns appear. And there is one more thing people do not always calculate: emotional confidence. If you do not trust the system around you, every illness feels larger, every appointment feels harder, every delay feels heavier. That is the part people rarely talk about in vacation-style retirement videos. They talk about beaches, but not about fear. And fear changes everything. Now let's get into number 7, because this is where the paper trail begins to hurt. At number 7, we have tax complications. Retirement abroad does not mean leaving American obligations behind. That is one of the biggest misunderstandings people have. The US tax system can still follow Americans overseas, and that creates layers of complexity many retirees are not prepared for. Different countries have different reporting rules, different residency standards, different tax treatment, and different financial documentation requirements. If you are living abroad, you may need to understand both your host country's rules and the American rules at the same time. That is not a simple thing for someone who expected retirement to be peaceful. And then there is the issue of timing. Retirement should be a time of stability, but tax season can turn it into a year-round stress event if your finances are spread across borders. Bank accounts, pension income, investments, exchange rates, and reporting obligations can all create extra work. This is not just about money, it is about mental load. Older adults should not have to spend retirement worrying whether they filled out the right forms in the right country. But that is the reality for many who move abroad without fully understanding how complicated the system becomes once their life is split between two nations. And when that happens, the supposed simplicity of retirement abroad starts to disappear. That brings us to number 6, which is one of the most painful parts of this whole story. At number 6, we have loneliness. This is the cost nobody wants to put in a retirement budget, but it is often the one people feel the most. Moving to another country can sound exciting when you are thinking about scenery, food, and lower expenses. But the emotional reality is different when the novelty wears off and daily life sets in. You are no longer near the people who know your history. You are not close enough for a quick family visit. You do not have the same social circle, the same routines, or the same cultural ease you had back home. Even if you meet friendly people, that does not automatically replace the comfort of being around your own family and longtime friends. Loneliness in retirement is not just boredom. It can affect mood, motivation, and even physical well-being. A quieter life abroad can quickly become an isolating one if the move was driven more by finances than by genuine desire to rebuild a new life. And that is what makes this so heartbreaking. Many people do not leave because they want a fresh start. They leave because staying feels impossible. That means they are not choosing a new life from strength. They are leaving from pressure. That difference matters. Because when a move is forced more than chosen, the emotional outcome is often much heavier than the pictures suggest. Now let's move to number 5, where the practical side of that loneliness gets even more serious. At number 5, we have distance from family. This is one of the biggest hidden trade-offs in retiring abroad, especially for Americans who still want to stay connected to children, grandchildren, siblings, or aging relatives back home. The farther away you live, the harder it becomes to be present when your family needs you, or when you need them. That sounds obvious, but it hits harder in real life than most people expect. A holiday visit is not the same as being able to show up for a birthday, a medical emergency, a school event, or an unexpected crisis. Distance turns normal family life into scheduled contact. FaceTime is helpful, but it is not the same as being there. And as people get older, the need for real presence often becomes more important, not less. This creates a painful split. On one side, you may be able to live more cheaply. On the other side, you may be missing the people and moments that make life feel meaningful. For many retirees, that becomes the hardest part of all, because money can be managed. Loneliness can be partly managed. But the ache of missing family is different. It is constant. It does not show up on a bill, but it shows up in the heart every day. That is why so many retirement abroad stories leave out the part about holidays, grandkids, funerals, hospital visits, and the quiet realization that you are too far away to really participate in family life the way you once did. And once that starts to sink in, regret gets a foothold. That takes us to number 4, which is a problem many people do not realize until they are already far from home. At number 4, we have banking trouble. This sounds small until it happens to you. Once you live abroad, simple financial tasks can become harder than they should be. A bank may flag your account. A payment may not go through. A transfer may be delayed. A system may require documents that are difficult to provide from another country. And when your retirement income depends on those systems working smoothly, even a small disruption can create major stress. A lot of retirees assume they can just keep using their money the same way they always have. But international banking can introduce friction at every step. Different regulations, verification rules, address requirements, and security flags can turn routine money management into a recurring headache. That matters because retirement is supposed to reduce stress, not multiply it. And if you are already living on a tight budget, there is very little room for banking delays or account issues. One error can mean late bills, missed payments, or sudden uncertainty about cash flow. That kind of instability can make a quiet retirement feel much less secure. This is another hidden cost that usually gets overlooked in the fantasy version of the move. People imagine a relaxed life in a cheaper country. What they do not imagine is spending an afternoon trying to prove to a bank that they are still themselves, still eligible, and still able to access their own money. That is not freedom. That is friction. And friction becomes exhausting when you are older and trying to live on fixed income. Now let's get into number 3, where the emotional cost deepens again. At number 3, we have the loss of familiarity. This is one of the most underestimated parts of retirement abroad. Everyday life is full of small comforts that people rarely notice until they are gone. The grocery store layout, the language around you, the way appointments are scheduled, the way neighbors behave, the way public systems work without having to think about them. Once you move abroad, every one of those things can feel different. That might sound manageable at first. Some people even enjoy the novelty. But after a while, constant unfamiliarity becomes tiring. The brain does not rest as easily when it has to keep solving little puzzles just to get through the day. Where do you go? What does this form mean? Who do you ask? Is this the right line? Is this the right document? Is this the right word? That is not retirement. That is adaptation fatigue. And for older adults, that can become emotionally draining very quickly. The life they wanted to simplify may actually become more mentally demanding than before. That is especially true if they do not speak the local language, or if they are living in a place where administrative systems are very different from what they know. A lot of people underestimate the value of familiarity because it feels ordinary. But ordinary is powerful. It gives comfort. It lowers stress. It saves energy. When you remove that, the cost is invisible at first, but real every single day. And that is why some retirees abroad do not feel peaceful after the move. They feel constantly alert, constantly adjusting, and constantly a little bit out of place. That leads into number 2, which is one of the hardest truths of all. At number 2, we have the emotional toll of forced sacrifice. This is what happens when retirement abroad stops being a joyful choice and becomes a painful necessity. When people leave because they want to explore the world, the move can feel exciting. But when they leave because they cannot afford to stay, the emotional tone changes completely. There is grief in that kind of move. Grief for the life you expected. Grief for the home you had to leave. Grief for the people you see less often now. Grief for the retirement dream that was supposed to feel stable and safe, but instead felt like a calculation. That emotional burden can be hard to admit, especially for people who have already made the move and want to believe they made the right choice. But beneath the scenery and the savings, there can be a quiet sadness that never fully goes away. And that sadness gets heavier when the reality of age begins to set in. The older you are, the more important proximity becomes. Proximity to family, proximity to doctors, proximity to support, proximity to the systems you understand. That is why this story is so serious. It is not just about economics. It is about what people give up when economics leaves them with too few good choices. And that brings us to number 1, the biggest hidden danger of all. At number 1, we have regret. Not the kind of regret people post about online. The quiet kind. The kind that shows up when the excitement wears off and the costs become clear. The kind that arrives when a retiree realizes the move solved one problem but created several others. The kind that comes from understanding that lower monthly expenses do not always equal a better life. That is the secret most sunny retirement videos never show you. A cheaper country can still be a more expensive emotional life. A warm climate can still feel cold if you are lonely. A beautiful place can still feel unstable if your money, medical access, and family ties are all stretched across borders. Regret does not always mean someone made the wrong decision. Sometimes it means they were forced into a decision that had no perfect answer. That is what makes this topic so heartbreaking. Many Americans are not chasing a dream. They are trying to survive a retirement system that no longer feels built for them. And once you understand that, the whole picture changes. Retiring abroad is not automatically foolish, and it is not automatically wise. It is complicated. But what is not complicated is this. People deserve honesty before they make a move that can reshape the rest of their lives. They deserve to know about the loneliness, the medical uncertainty, the taxes, the banking issues, and the emotional cost before they trade one problem for another. Because if you are going to leave home, you should at least know what you are leaving behind. And the real question is not whether retirement abroad looks cheaper on paper. The real question is whether it still feels like freedom once the novelty fades and the hidden costs start showing up one by one. If this made you think differently, share it with someone who keeps saying retiring abroad is the easy answer.